Hello, you're listening to Me and Paranormal You with your host, Ryan Singer. Because it's more fun to believe. Welcome to another experience of Me and Paranormal You. This is your buddy, Ryan Singer. I am joined by my buddy and yours as well. We got Greg Feinman of the Fitz investigation at Mutilation Ranch. Ongoing investigation, years-long investigation. You've heard me talk about this. Actually, I think it was 2 weeks ago, maybe. I even posted a little bit of just some short snippets of the audio that I had captured of when we camped out over there as well. You sent me the link. I was checking out the YouTube videos, and we can mention UOR Investigations YouTube channel at the end of this as well, because Greg has posted an unedited, a full-length clip. I think it's actually 11 minutes and 11 seconds, which I love, the longer one. So that's very synchronistic. But of We Are the Seven, and we're going to get into that. We're going to you darn tootin', we're going to be talking about the seven on this investigation. We're going to talk about where the updates since the last time you've been on the show, which there have been a lot. There's been a ton. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, man. I can't complain, man. I'm working full time, and I couldn't have said I was going to be able to do that a year or two ago, where my knees were bad, but they gave me new knees, and I'm walking, man. So I'm employed and delivering for Domino's, just what I want to do. I mean, I'm making good money doing it, and it's very little. How do I say? You don't have to put a lot into it. You just go and do your deliveries and everything, and it's helping me fund this investigation and fund everything else. I mean, I've had to buy another computer and other things that I can't do without, I can't do the investigation without a computer. So yeah,
it's funny because you and I were talking about this last night and a little earlier today. The quite frankly, the sequel to Fitz is already the process is already undertaken, and people haven't even seen the first one yet.
Yeah.
Because there's so much, because there is so much footage and there's so much that's going on, and the investigation is so dense. Now, I want to say this real quick too, before we really get into the nitty gritty here, is, there have been, some of our friends have, been gracious enough throughout this process, the editing process, to watch different versions of it and things like that. And some of them have, they can't even believe that there's all this other stuff that was on the cutting room floor. And when we made the choice to turn it into a movie as opposed to a episodes of a season of a TV show, obviously, that changed things a lot for us. Now, with the sequel that's already being, and with your computer arriving, the new gear, the new equipment, I don't think it's going to be, let's just say that, the follow-up film will probably not be all that far behind the original, potentially, although, I don't want to jinx it, because things technically with equipment and technology on this investigation, it's batshit, it's bonkers.
Yeah.
All the stuff that happens. So I'm not trying to jinx it over here, but just so people know, there's going to be, the second one's already being worked on. So, and there's big updates across the board on everything. So let's pick up from roughly where we last chatted. And basically this was like before you and I went out there with our friend Agnes. We know that we have to do we know that we're doing a grid search. Or we're gonna have to wait till the weather turns a little bit warmer. There's been a handover in property rights, essentially, right? If I'm saying that correctly.
Well, it's being leased.
Okay.
He's leasing it out, and he has sold his cows to the new leaser or leasee, I guess. And he's already had one death, but he never called me, number one. And number two, it was they said it was some sort of a virus or something that killed the cow. And they had an idea what it was, but it wasn't cut up or anything. But I still, wish he would have called me to let me know, because I would have liked to have gone out there and checked the cow for myself, just do a couple preliminary tests and everything. Anything that dies on that ranch, I want to be involved in it, because, who knows why it died. Even you just don't know. That ranch is full of surprises.
Yeah, for sure. And I think this guy who I met when I was there last time very briefly. I mean, it's a lot to wrap your brain around, and I don't think he's got it's like to expect someone to just kind of hear all this information and be able to synthesize it immediately is not something that you're even expecting. And I don't even think you've kind of opened up the whole can of worms yet, but not until he sees the documentary, right?
Yeah, yeah. He doesn't. I don't. I mean, he looks like he doesn't know what to think. You know, he doesn't. He doesn't want to say he doesn't believe it. But I haven't really tried to sell him on the story. Really, I just told him, listen, I got a hold of him through Tom, and I just want him to know that I existed, that I've been doing an investigation on that ranch for the last 4 years. And if possible, if you have a death of a cow, please call me, because I'd like to look into it, even no matter what. But when I made that call, that one cow had already died. I hadn't introduced myself yet. That being said, you know, again, I don't know how he thinks about the story, because I haven't really sat and told him much. Really, he's a president of the First National Bank here, and he basically, I had to get some, we had to get some release of
Release of liabilities,
yeah,
yeah.
they had to get that taken care of and everything. And I haven't really went into detail of everything that we found out there, or who we're in contact or anything like that. And he's good with us being out on the property. As long, I mean, we don't mess with the cows. We go out there, we do our thing, and we're gone. You know.
Okay, and just to catch everybody up, just in case you're jumping in, you haven't heard any of the previous interviews that I've done with Greg over the years, from or very early on in this investigation. The story's been unfolding here on the show. It's been a real fascinating journey, and I've been sucked into this journey, and I'm glad to be a part of it. And Greg has been investigating a place we're calling Mutilation Ranch that has had 16 cattle mutilations over the years. Tom Miller is the rancher. Greg has a background as a paramedic, deputy coroner, law enforcement in the southern Colorado area. He was retired disabled through pretty much overnight. Woke up one day and had to very quickly, within a few months, if I'm not mistaken, right, Greg?
three
You had,
months.
yeah, within 3 months had to retire
Yeah,
with a rheumatoid arthritis diagnosis.
yeah.
Um, and that's when earlier he said he got the new knees. Um, that's when that's what that is in reference to. And then
2008 is when I got sick. It wasn't until 2023 that I had both my knees replaced. So, it's just been, I'm very grateful, because, I can, work and, pay the bills, and, I can get
Well,
around.
Greg is. I can tell the listeners, It's almost like you're a brand new man. The
Yeah. Yeah.
when we were there in January of 2023, filming all the interviews for the documentary, that will be. Oh boy, I listened to some more music today. By the way, it's about 1/4 of the way done. The music so far. I
Yeah.
think you heard some of it today, right? As well.
Yeah. I watched 20 minutes of it last night.
It's
And
pretty rad, right?
oh man, spectacular is what I can say. It really adds a lot to the documentary. A
Yeah,
lot.
for sure. And Justin's really knocking it out of the park. And I can't wait. I mean, it's like you hear 20 minutes of it and then you get really greedy and you're
Yeah.
like, I want the next 110 or next 120 because it's about an hour and 40 minutes long. So now you're just like, oh man, I want the next hour and 20 minutes done tomorrow. I want it
Yeah.
done right. I
Well,
want it right now.
I'm sucked into it already, and I'm part of it. I was like, oh, I want to see more. I was, I'd like to get a hold of that guy, whoever is the guy that's
Well,
doing.
we definitely can make that happen. I mean, I know it's like
I
Dan's
got to thank him.
stepson, basically.
Yeah, I got to thank him, man. He's just done a fantastic job, and he made it. I didn't want like scary music in the background, like people to be afraid. And so he did that in a way where um, it's suspenseful, and that's what I wanted, suspenseful. And so that music has that, and then when Mama Sue is on, the music changes.
It's beautiful. I loved that part. Yeah.
Yeah, and so um, I'm sure that that'll happen every time she's on. You know.
Yeah. And I was just thinking about this just now. I can't believe I hadn't thought about it earlier, but as soon as we're done, we got to do a screening in Trinidad. Maybe we'll look into, finding a theater in town and do a screening in town
Well,
potentially.
yeah, Dan's been talking about Dan Lindholm with Big Truth. He's been talking about doing a darn it, I just lost what I was going to say. I just lost what I was going to say about Dan.
Or
Sorry.
taking it. I know he wants. We've talked about taking it to conferences and things
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
He's wanting to take it to like a film festival, but I don't even know how to. I
Well,
would.
I've got a little bit of experience with all that. So once we actually have a finished product, we can talk about that. But it's there's a whole nother system of things that has to go, that has to take place, and submission fees and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, the point is, for people listening, it's damn close. And I think we can't wait more than anybody. We can't wait to share it with everybody. And so so here we are now, right? Without giving away too much of the given too much of it, although yeah, you really do have to go back and listen to some of these other interviews. Basically, the cattle mutilation investigation that you started, turned into a whole nother investigation, turned into a full-fledged paranormal investigation with Oma. You might know them as Sasquatch or Bigfoot if this is the first time you're listening. Oma is what we're referring to them here. And we're talking about the spirit of a missing person. We're talking about the grays, and obviously the cattle mutilations, and the mysterious, or the all the deaths that have happened on this 1 mile stretch of property. And there's weird activity happening. And we went, gosh, just in August of this past year. I think it was the end of August. And for the first time, we purposefully camped out for sky watching purposes, right? Well, that was the first time that happened, right? On
Yeah,
this in
yeah.
this
I've never stayed
investigation.
out there. Yeah, I've never stayed out there and camped out. And basically, we're going to sky watch and then do some metal detecting out there because we're looking for a piece of jewelry. So that was the plan for the next day. And yeah, it was a pretty interesting night, wasn't it?
To say the least, because what really starts melting my brain about this whole thing is, and oh, by the way, I'm gonna have to be taking breaks for commercials here along the way. Um, Actually, let's just do that right now. We're gonna pop out for a quick commercial, and we come back. And just as a reminder, no commercials if you're over at the Patreon page, patreon.com/Ryan Singer. It's $3 a month. It helps fund all my trips and journeys, and specifically trying to document the paranormal. So go check that out. And also free. There's free option over there for people, and every once in a while you get, there's free stuff as well over there. So we're going to be right back with Greg Feinman. We're talking about Fitz, the investigation of Mutilation Ranch, and we're talking about the bonkers night that happened out there right when we come back. And boom, we're back. So I got my buddy Greg here. Towards the very end of August, we go out to Mutilation Ranch and we camp out. We have a bonfire going. There's a couple videos on your YouTube now on UOR Investigations. I'll link that in the show notes, and you can hear and see for yourself exactly, at least part of what we're talking about, because this is really fascinating. You get out. It's an ITC app that people can download on their phone, and then you also have, I think, a reverb app that you've added to it, but
Yeah,
it's called the
it has
Portal.
to have. Yeah, it has to have the reverb. It's like paramount that the reverb is there. You can't really use it without it.
And so we are trying to contact the spirit of a missing woman that you and Mama Sue have been in contact with for years now, that has become a very integral part of this investigation.
And I call this a paranormal salad, you know, because it's got a little bit of everything in it. And you know, I can't even explain how it all happened that way. It just did. That's what happens when you start an investigation and you start peeling back layers. You start finding different things, and things that we weren't expecting to find, we found, and we came in contact with things that we didn't expect to come in contact with, and the timing of it and everything. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. You
Yeah, it
know, um,
really is. And so we're set up out there and we got a bonfire going. It gets dark and there's just the three of us. It's you, me, Agnes, and we're not expecting, we don't have expectations. And you talk about this a lot. It's, we don't expect Oma, we don't expect Fitz, we don't expect them to put on a show for us. That's not their job.
yeah,
And that's not what we're out there for. To dance around, put on a show for us, dance around for us, entertain us, right? That's a big aspect of this.
yeah,
And we had gifted apples earlier when we first got there as well.
yeah,
So for Oma over in the gifting area, and we were camping out not too far from the gifting area, and planning on staying there overnight. So, and then I don't know what time it was when we got out the portal. It was probably around 8:30,
yeah, something like that.
and you busted out, and then I've never, I don't have a lot of experience using the portal, and what's interesting to me is I also don't have a lot of experience dealing with an entity or entities or getting communication through ITC devices that are referencing to themselves as the seven. And we were using this portal to contact this woman, and that was the main purpose, right?
Yep.
And tell me in your words what unfolded after that, after the portal session started.
Well, um, we started trying to contact the spirit of the missing woman, and time after time after time, we kept getting "We are the seven." All right, I've I've never heard that at all, and now the portal is a device that plays multiple voices backwards, like people talking back. They have it in reverse, and it has everything from a young child boy to an older male adult, and a young girl to an older girl, an adult woman. They've got all these voices that a spirit can really pick out that most identifies with them. All right. And it's not usual to have the same voice over and over and over and over and over on this portal. And that's what,
Estimate for me how many times you've used the portal.
oh, I've oh,
Just a guess, like
100 times.
okay, so you've used it a bunch.
Yeah.
Just yeah, you've used it a ton.
Yeah. And not only that, but in another, when Dan was out there, we were getting "We Are the Seven."
Okay, we're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that part.
And it I didn't know what to think of it at first. I've never heard that. And these, like I said, this device, this app plays voices backwards. And what I did is I took the recording of "We Are the Seven." I took it and I turned it into an audio file, just "We Are the Seven," and I put it into um, a sound program called Goldwave. And you can do everything with this app, or this program. And what I did is I took "We Are the Seven," I put it in this program, and I reversed it, thinking if it was playing in reverse, if I reverse it, it would be playing forward. If that makes sense, and we would hear it like, just in case we're thinking "We Are the Seven" is over and happening over and over. Maybe it was saying something else, and we just picked it up wrong. But that's not correct. I reversed it, and it was unintelligible. And if anything that you hear, you should be able to reverse it and hear, like, someone talking, in forward. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so it's basically if someone says book, you should be able to hear cube.
Yeah,
Or if book comes through, or that's not a great example, but you know what I mean. Like if
yeah,
we hear cube, we should put that back and it'd be like book, or
yeah,
or
yeah,
however book sounds backwards, book like cub,
correct.
whatever. And so when you did that with We Are the Seven, which was coming through a bunch when we were there, and you're telling me that a week later when Dan was there, you did another portal session. See, I wasn't aware of this until right before we started recording that this had happened, that it was coming through also.
Yeah, yeah, it was coming through, and there's a lot. That wasn't the only thing that happened when Dan was out there. When Dan and his girlfriend went out there, that's not the only thing that happened. um, well, I got we're out there recording, and if I'm lying, I'm dying. A Black Hawk helicopter flew right over us. A military helicopter flew right over us, like 9 or 10 at night. Like came out of
Now,
nowhere. It like came out of nowhere from the east and flew literally right over the property, right over our heads where we were at. I mean, within it, and all I could say after it flew by was, "Well, that was unusual." And Dan's like, "Yeah, that was." And then we see that same helicopter just after it had passed us, it kind of went around to the north, and we saw it chasing what looked like an orb. It was chasing an orb, like it looked like a big light that it was chasing. And to be honest with you, I didn't think I had any of this on recording. I thought, oh man, we missed it. Like helicopter flying over. But wait a second, I had my body camera rolling the whole time I was out there. It's got to be on there. So I went through all the files and found it. But when I found that file, I saw that I had taken my phone and recorded with my phone too. So I totally didn't realize I did that. So I had it on my phone, and then Dan was recording at the same time. So we have it in three different files. And this helicopter, Black Hawk helicopter, flying right over our heads, and that's just not normal, you know.
you've been out to that property. Let's estimate how many times total over the years you've been out there.
Oh, yeah, 100 or so. I mean, I don't know,
Okay.
a lot. I'm maybe 7,500. It's hard to say. A
Let's
lot.
just say 70. Let's just say 70 to be conservative, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So 70 times, and we're talking late at night, oftentimes, right?
correct.
Especially when you and Mama Sue go out there, oftentimes you'll be out there from like, I don't know, 12:30 till 5 in the morning,
11,
sometimes
11 to 4,
11 to 4.
11 to 4,
And
11 to
how
5.
many times has a helicopter of any kind, whether you could identify it or not, flown over
Never, never.
until this recent time?
Yeah, and it wasn't in the flight path of the airport either, because there's an airport just west of the property, but they weren't heading there. It wasn't like they headed to that airport. And even if they did, I don't know.
It's
It
just what are the
never landed.
chances,
It
right? I
never
mean,
landed. Yeah, it never landed. And the next time we saw it, it looked like it was chasing an orb. Like there was a light ahead of it. You can ask Dan about it. He saw it too. But the problem is my video equipment that I got isn't good enough in low light, to pick up stars and things like that. So that's something that I've got to work on. You
well,
know,
you and me both. I mean, I am
that's not the
haunted.
that's
I'm
not the
haunted.
only thing that happened of We Are the Seven while you were out there. That's not the only thing that happened.
Yeah, well, for sure. I mean, it's what's interesting is I didn't know We Are the Seven was coming through the portal a week later when Dan and his girlfriend were there with you. I
Now
didn't
Dan
realize that.
says Dan says when he was in Florida,
Oh wow, we haven't even gotten to that part
yeah, well, I'm just
yet.
saying that he said that he was hearing the word fits over and over and over.
I
And
haven't even brought that up to you yet, but yes,
yeah,
I was gonna get to that.
oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
Yeah,
jump
yeah, we're
ahead,
gonna
but
get to that. We're gonna get
yeah,
to that. Um, but because it's part of me feels like it's just so incestuous, right? Like these separate investigations that apparently aren't separate at all. In the larger scope of things, there is, I
oh,
guess, really no separation, right? But um, what we have here is we have a sprawling. Both of these investigations are completely consuming and sprawling, and in a way that, I guess it was only a matter of time before they bled into one another. But before we get to that, I want to go back to end of August when Agnes and I were there with you. And so we set up shop. Never had camped out there like with a tent on purpose to be there overnight, right? And uh, we do the portal session, and there's one part of the portal session you can, I think, I'm not sure if it's on your video, I'm pretty sure it is, but you'll hear me say, oh, did they say 3 a.m.? Where it sounded like I heard something like, oh, okay, 3 a.m. That's interesting. Well, I'll keep a note of that. But then we finished the portal session because we are the seven keeps coming through, and it was almost, you had a very you had a very funny you had a very funny example of like
Yeah.
what that's like. Tell everybody what you told me today.
Well, so we heard it over and over, and you made a comment. You're like, well, I mean, it's kind of weird that they're saying, like, if I went to meet someone, I wouldn't just come up and say, "Hi, I'm Ryan. I'm Ryan. I'm Ryan. I'm Ryan."
Just
you know,
over and over again. Well, okay, Ryan, what are you going to here to help us with? I'm Ryan.
I'm
It's just
Ryan. Yeah,
over and
yeah.
over
That
and
made me.
over.
That was funny, man. That was hilarious.
But it's like, it was confounding to a point where, eventually we turn it off because, we don't know what to think of it at the time. And we don't, and I've gone down, a rabbit hole, and I'm not even close to getting to the bottom of this thing yet regarding the seven. But, that's, we'll update more on that
And
later on in the
without
future. But
without Mama Sue there, we're like blind. We're blind, and we don't know what we're really in contact with until she's there. But some of the information Dan has set forward, changes it a little bit. But
yeah, okay, I promise we are going to get to that later on.
yeah, no worries.
Um, but so we're kind of just hanging out and by the campfire, by the bonfire thing that we've set up. And then, um, do you remember how it all went down with the, shortly after that, around 10:15 or a
Well,
little after 10?
yeah, you asked me, where should we start looking? Where do you want to start looking? From the property, which way, what direction? And I said, I feel they're coming from the north. And the reason I said that is because everything Mama Sue has said comes from the north, right? What sees in her mind, she said she saw this craft in her mind that we're going to see eventually that starts on one side of the sky in the northern skies and goes to the other side. And it goes so fast that the ship looks like it elongates, all right, as it takes off or whatever. And not only that, but every time that I've had an experience at my house, it's all been from the north. It's all from the north. And I just sensed it. I don't know how to explain it. I just felt north is where they were coming from. And, you can take it from there. But
Yeah, well, you pointed to a very specific spot in the sky, whether you realized you were doing it or not. And it was slightly northwest, just slightly northwest. Um, pretty close to due north. And so I made a mental note of that where you pointed. And so then, anyway, we're sitting down by the bonfire. And historically, whenever I'm doing sky watching, within the first 15 minutes, my neck has got a crink in it because I'm just like, like a dummy, just sitting in a chair with my head
yeah,
straight up looking at the sky.
yeah,
And it never really occurred to me to do it another way. And then I just kind of like, I'm, giving my neck and head a break from that. And I'm looking to that point where you pointed earlier. And I see what appears to be a light appear, kind of move slowly from my left to right. So it's headed from west to east, almost headed towards due north. And then it kind of goes out. And I'm just like, oh, that was weird. I think I just saw a light. And then I think I saw another one very shortly after that, within maybe 15, 30 seconds. Maybe there was another one that kind of blinked in and kind of also faded out. And then it kind of stopped. And I was like, I think we've got action here. And that's when you said, should I meditate? Do you think that'll help? Right.
yeah, yep.
And tell me from your perspective, because people who listen to the show know yeah, I fucking ramble on about this because to me the whole night was so mind-boggling. But from your perspective, I think I see things in the sky. You say, should I meditate? Then what happens?
Well, I just went into meditation and I try to clear my mind completely, when I'm doing
So
this.
you went into one of the tents that we brought.
Yeah, yeah. And I just um I think I can't really I basically just went into meditation and started calling on Fitz, in my mind, just saying, hey, we're here, out at the ranch. Sure like to see you, kind of thing. And I meditated maybe 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah, not even. I don't think I'm maybe 10 minutes tops. Was how long you were in the tent before I started shouting at you.
Yeah,
Uh, I couldn't get you out of the tent fast enough. I don't think.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And sure as heck, man, they showed up. And it was pretty much right after I started meditating, that calling out to them, you know. And I want them to understand, want them to know that I'm not doing this for them to entertain me. They're not an entertainment. They're not there to entertain any of us at all. But they came out, and lights were dancing around. I mean, you saw it. I mean, to me, that was contact. What we had out there that night, because it went on for a while, and I was exhausted, man. Like come like 11 o'clock,
Yeah, I
after
think it went on for at least 15 minutes straight.
yeah, and it just made me exhausted. I don't know how to explain it, but I was tired. And normally, you know, okay, you were super excited watching this, and I'm so used to things happening out there that nothing really surprises me out there anymore. It really doesn't, because so many crazy things have happened. Just add that one more to the list, and but I turned in around 11, and I could hear you guys talking until like 4 or 5 in the morning. But they also moved from the north to the easterly east of that property, and there was multiple lights, and they were moving. They were like dancing around each other. And Mama Sue, when I told her what had happened, she basically said that Fitz came out and did that for my benefit. I'm saying I'm important or anything like that, but they did that so we could video, so we can get that on video. Now, Fitz at no time has Fitz ever told me or messaged me to tell other people that they exist. Not one time have they said, tell people we exist. You know, they're telling me to tell people that God exists, you know, and um, that's what they've been doing this whole time, trying to get, they turned me from the investigation to somewhere else where studying the Bible. And it all has, I mean, it all, you got to have a
Well,
little
it's
bit of
it's a
faith.
huge it's a huge turn that happens in there, and we got to take another quick break here, and there's a couple other details I want to throw in there about what had happened um, leading up to at least the initial dance of the sky, or what I'm saying UBLs, unidentified blinking lights, but it was definitely contact. I'm with you 100%. There's no doubt in my mind. We established contact that night, and that reminds me of something that you have said previously that I want to remind you about when we get back. And just as a reminder, patreon.com/Ryan Singer, $3 a month, less than a Starbucks coffee if you drink them like me. That gets you no commercials on any episodes that come out. And we're going to be right back with my buddy Greg Feinman talking about Mutilation Ranch. Okay, we're back. And we're talking Mutilation Ranch. We're talking Fitz. We're talking all that good stuff with Greg Feinman of UOR Investigations and the documentary that's going to be coming out. probably early 2024 or 2025, if I had to guess, because it's already November of 2024. Now, there's been a few times throughout the investigation. I'm not even sure if it's in the documentary cut we have there, but there's a conversation between you and Mama Sue have both said this along the way that sooner or later fits would have to show themselves, something
Yes.
along those lines, right?
Yeah.
And would you say that the night we were out there, would you say that's one of the like the opening move of that? Like that's the first time that they're really coming out and force in that kind of way. Do you
It's
think that
first.
that's tied
Oh,
into it?
I believe so. I, as many times though I've been out to the ranch, we hardly look up in the sky. We're never sky watching like you would think we would be, because we're not told to look up into the sky, you know. Um, we're in contact with who we're in contact with. And, we've been working with that, trying to prove that that person was on that property. There's so many different aspects of this. Um, but yeah, Fitz came out um, for the first time that I've seen on that ranch that night. That was the first time.
Yeah, I mean, at least when you were like you said, you because I'd been out there, I think a couple different times. We weren't looking up really at any point, and I also want to throw in that while you were doing your meditation, um, at that same time, unbeknownst to me, she told me this later or shortly after, Agnes had also done a um, kind of her own meditation where like an open, I don't think she'd mind me saying this, opening her heart chakra meditation kind of thing. She had also kind of had done something like that when she was on her own doing that as well. Um, like either right before or simultaneously with this. And what was interesting too about that first display that lasted at least 10-15 minutes straight. Um, Initially when I would try to film or record, they would always disappear right when
Yeah,
I got
yeah,
the
I
record
read.
button. And so then we start asking, out loud, hey, is it okay if we film you? Can we please, is it okay? Let us know if it's okay. Just stay lit if we can film you. And then after asking that, they started being okay, it seemed
Yeah.
like. And we started capturing it was just really hard not to be just filled with great gratitude in those moments
Oh,
and and, and really exciting.
I was extremely grateful. I kept saying that over and over. Thanks, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You know, um, because they didn't have to do that. They didn't have to do that. They've been behind the scenes for a millennia. All right. They've been behind the scenes. I think they're behind a lot of God's miracles that He performed. I really believe that. I mean, the Israelites followed a cloud by day and a pillar of light by night, and the pillar of light was fire. And to have fire, you need three elements: heat, oxygen, and fuel. And where's the fuel coming from for the fire? You know, um, the wise men that witnessed the birth of Jesus, they followed a star by night until it brought them to Bethlehem. And they called it a star, but it wasn't a star. I mean, can you look up into the sky and look at a star and guide yourself to a specific location or a town or anything just by looking at a star? You can't. It's like impossible. But whatever reason, there was a light, and a lot of people don't want to believe that they may be involved in God's mighty miracles. But God works through His creation. Ever since He blew the universe into existence, He has always used His creation to build, to make something. He didn't just poof human beings into into this world. He created us out of the ground, from the dirt of the ground. He created us. So He's always used something to create us with, or to create with. He you know He works through His creation. And I believe that they sent Fitz here. They have authority because they're so much farther advanced than we are. And not only that, but we're the only world that fell to sin. God has created other worlds out there and separated us all by dimensions. And we are the only world that fell to sin. And so if you come in contact with any other beings from somewhere else, you got to assume that they didn't sin, that they walked with God. And, but people, they don't like explanations sometimes to things. They'd rather think it's just magical. It just all happens by magic. You read the Bible yourself, man. It'll,
Well, I think a lot of this stuff too is, a lot of people don't have time to be thinking about aliens. They're like they got, three kids that they're worried about getting to school on time. They got their job, they got their mortgage, they got their bills, right? They're not thinking about anything that's, there is that magical component and they can compartmentalize it, right? Like, oh, there's stuff that I'll never understand. Put that over here in the back of the brain. I don't have to worry about it, right? Um, and then, then comes along people like us, and we're investigating the unknown, or the miraculous, or the supernatural, or paranormal. And, we start putting ideas together anyway, right? Like, at least that we think, and psychics are involved, and and weird devices and boxes that spit out words backwards, right? And it's all very kind of strange stuff for people who they couldn't fathom spending like a large amount of their life doing this. But what's interesting to me about this too is, not only now do we have Fitz entering the scene and showing themselves in the sky, right? And then they do it again a week later, when you go back. I mean, I'm wanting to believe that anytime you go to Mutilation Ranch, you're going to see it. They'll dance. I mean, they're just there. Like,
well,
I
I can
just
tell
feel
you,
like it's just there. It's just happening all the time.
and I can tell you this, that you'll only see it if you're invited out there. You got to be invited, so to speak. Like you were invited out there. Um, you got, I was invited. Mama Sue was invited out there. You can't just, like they got the Skinwalker Ranch and they forced themselves into an investigation that they're not welcome. I don't think, and they're doing it for the wrong reasons. That's what Fitz is telling me. They're doing it for the wrong reasons, right? And not only that, Skinwalker Ranch is cursed land. This land that we're on is not cursed. Anything you're going to get on Skinwalker Ranch probably ain't going to be good, right? But it has the same readings that Mutilation Ranch has. It's the same thing. It's the same readings that they're getting with using Tesla coils or whatever they're using. I don't know much about Tesla coils, but um, yeah.
Well, it's the parallels are striking, and obviously it's interesting, and and we're talking about 1,400 acres out here at Mutilation Ranch, roughly.
Yeah.
And and the light pollution is pretty low out there. It's great sky watching. It is interesting to the idea of being invited. That's not something I was considering, but the what you have here is, so we go out there at the end of August. We see this crazy thing. You end up turning in around 11. Agnes and I, around 3:15 in the morning or whatever it was, it starts happening again, and it goes on this time for about an hour and a half, to the point where you're physically exhausted, trying to, and you just almost can't believe that it's still happening after a period of after like a 90 minute. It's just like, oh my God, it's just like, I can't believe this is, and it's still exciting, and it's still profound, and wild and crazy and all that stuff. But you find yourself being like, okay, you can, I don't know how much I can't be
I
full
know.
tilt for 2 hours straight, man. Like, but um and it's really hard to sleep after that. And I think we fell asleep around, I don't know, it was getting light out by the time we were done talking, and
Yeah,
actually
it's like
fell asleep.
5:30 or 6, something like
Yeah, I
that.
think it was after 6, and then Tom showed up, or what, 8:30.
Yeah, I got up.
um
I got up to get a couple things and kind of move around a little bit, and Tom came out there to see us and woke you guys up. kind of thing. I think you were wanting to sleep in a little bit, but
Oh man, I was so exhausted. And
yeah,
then
I can only imagine.
then we
I was tired. I was tired, and I got a little bit of sleep out there.
yeah, so then after that we did the metal detector, and we did a little bit, and it started raining a little bit, so which wasn't, ideal, but we did a little bit of searching with the metal detector for a piece of jewelry, just kind of a preliminary kind of search, it felt like. And I don't know, a couple hours later, we were packed up and, ready to go. And then I started driving back to California on like no, on no sleep.
No, I don't know how you
Uh,
do that, man.
I made it to Flagstaff. I made it just short of Flagstaff, Arizona. So I made it about 8.5 hours. I don't know how I did it either, but I think I was so jazzed up from the night before, because I've told people on this show already that, I could go the rest of my life without seeing one dancing light in the sky. And I've already been spoiled beyond measure after the two separate displays that happened that night at Mutilation Ranch. I tell people minimum estimate, there was 300 UFOs I saw, 300 lights, whatever you want to call them. I saw minimum 300 total that night, which is bonkers.
Yeah,
And I'll never be the same person because of it. Um, and I'm hyper obsessed with getting a low light camera, like you were talking about earlier, for the next trip out there. But cut to, and there's all kinds of other stuff that has been happening in the meantime, specific to this investigation. Um, but so Dan and I end up going to Florida a few weeks ago, and now we have this prototype device that Matthew Jackson brings with him called Prism, and it's bonkers, it's crazy, it's wild, and there's absolutely no words that should ever be showing up in this thing, because it doesn't use radio, it doesn't use a word bank, it doesn't have Wi-Fi, it's a closed system, right? Anyway, when you hear noises, now I am a little bit more stringent on my rules with one syllable words, right? Because any noise could be kind of a one syllable word, like yes, fits, yes, this, no. I mean, there's a little more leeway there for like, oh, you hear a noise and it's like, oh, it's that one syllable word, right? But having said that, and Dan was every once in a while I'd have to get, because Dan would be like, and I'd be like, okay, let's settle down. We can't be 100% sure that is what's happening. But then when it keeps happening over and over again, when we're not even trying to communicate with Fitz on this specific investigation, and we keep
and
hearing,
Dan told me you were kind of on the conservative side, saying, "Well, we need to keep
yeah, I'm
these."
trying to settle him down, because like late
Yeah,
night because when daytime Dan turns into late night Lindholm, it's like good luck reeling him in.
yeah,
but yeah, so it keeps happening, and then I'll have to go back. I mean, everything is such a blur these last couple of months. It's been so wild. But in relation to specifically trying to communicate with the seven, and I think asking in some degree if Fitz were the set, like, or were they related? Was Fitz related to the seven and vice versa? And we had to go through this footage, um, but clearly the investigations were not separating themselves anymore, or they had bled into one another.
well, Dan also told me this kind of nothing really weirds me out anymore, but he told me that when they were asking, "Is this Fitz?" We're talking. He said that he heard my name come out with my voice. He heard
Yeah,
my voice saying, "Greg."
I think he called you almost immediately after that because he was so weirded out by it,
Yeah, yeah,
and he
and
couldn't get you on the phone. Or I think you might have been at work or something. But
yeah,
because I remember I saw the look in his eyes when he was telling me, he's like, I just heard Greg's voice. Say his name, like, and he's like, I call Greg and I can't get him on the phone. I gotta tell Greg. I gotta tell, and I'm like, I get it. I'm like, we're in it, man. We're in it at this point.
yeah,
We're inextricable. There's no getting us out of this mud anymore.
yeah.
Um, but I guess that's kind of what happens, right? When especially specifically, I want to talk about your angle on this, because you got the job now, you got the thanks to the two new knees, and you're able to work again. get some more equipment. But and I think what's important for people to understand, and I think they can see it in the documentary when they're able to watch it, is this isn't just like a passing fancy hobby for you. This is something that you've dedicated your life to.
Very much. Yeah. Yeah. I believe my whole life has led up to this very moment, and I think that my life has been guided. I truly believe that there's so many facets, that, um, where I believe I've been guided. And, even though I thought knew what I wanted, there was other plans for me, and like I tried working as a sales representative at a car dealership. And I worked harder than I've ever worked for free in my entire life, and ended up losing the job because of my health. And I'm like, man, why? I don't understand. Like I'm just trying to make it. And it was right after I lost my job that I started waking up again at 4 in the morning, and I started working on this project. Because I started working on it a year prior or 2 years prior, and then I got the job at the dealership, and then I started after I lost my job. I started up again, working on it, and I worked for a couple of years before, 2 or 3 years before I even contacted Mama Sue. I had to get equipment. There was so much stuff I had to buy, and I was living on a fixed income, and God provided for me. I can't believe I was able to do it on my fixed income, but I was. And I got everything I really needed to do a paranormal investigation, to be able to bring the law enforcement aspect into this, and to be very transparent on what we get when we tell people, because um, we're you know we're coming to the end here, and
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, and it's weird. It's actually kind of shocking for me just now to hear you say that. It kind of rattled me. I don't know how I feel about it, but because we get so attached to these things, and they're parts of our lives. It's like, no, I don't want to say goodbye to them, right? Um, you think I was going to ask you, like, what, actually, that's going to be a great spot for one more little quick break. And when we get back, I want to know what's happening next. Like, what do you think is happening next? We're going to talk about that with Greg Feinman in the investigation at Mutilation Ranch right when we get back from another short break. Okay, welcome back to Me and Paranormal You. This is your host, Ryan Singer. I doubt anyone had just started listening to the program right now. That's the old radio thing. Like, as soon as you come back from a commercial, you say the station and everything just in case someone
yeah.
tuned in just now. But it's like, this is a podcast. I think everyone at this point knows what they're listening to. But so you just said, and I can't believe it actually, that we're getting near the end. And
Why do
so
you think?
what is next in this investigation?
Oh,
What do you think is going to happen next?
so the cattle mutilations are being done because they're working to try to help us. All right, because again, we're coming close to the end. Um, in the Bible, it says we're going to be getting resurrected bodies, new bodies. We're going to be instantly transformed into these new bodies. It's going to be in a twinkling of an eye that we're transformed into these bodies. My question: where are the bodies coming from? I don't think he's going to poof them into existence, poof, and all of a sudden there's a human, or whatever the incorruptible body is going to be. But we're going to get incorruptible bodies. Where do you think they're coming from? If people want to believe that we're going to get new bodies, but they just don't want to know that there's someone else involved in making these bodies, they just aren't going to be grown out of a seed into the ground and turn into a person. I mean, someone's got to do it. So, but people don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that aliens are involved in God's work. But they're so much farther advanced than we are. I mean, they're way, 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 way more advanced than we are. And God has given them authority over us because they because of how far advanced they are. And I got to believe that their world didn't fall to sin like ours, and they're just following what God wants them to do. And but where are we going to get these bodies? Mama Sue's told me I'm going to be going into one of those bodies. That's what she got way back. And I was like, I didn't know how I felt about that, but I don't know what's next. I just what I do is I work off of what I got, and right now we're looking for a piece of jewelry. And that's why I go out to the ranch right now to find that piece of jewelry. Why? Because I'm trying to prove that a particular person is on this property somewhere, or was on this property, or is, I believe is. Um, and I just don't know. I wish I can tell you exactly what's going to happen, but I play things by ear, and I go where Fitz guides me, and I go where God guides me. You know, I started ministering at the jails. And that's something I could have never done if I wouldn't have started, studying the Word of God like they wanted me to. And they put that in me. They're the ones that told me to stop coming out to the ranch and start studying the Word of God because you're going to need it. You're going to need to know it. And all of a sudden, I had this incredible thirst for the knowledge of God in a way that, again, I started studying 8 hours a day for like 3 years. 4 years I've been studying the Word of God.
Well, it's kind of your personality. I've come to understand too over these years of getting to know you, buddy. It's as soon as you get an idea about something, it you don't half ass your way into
No, I don't.
you don't half ass your way into a thing. And I guess what's I don't know. I feel like I might know the answer to this, but and I know we don't like to play this game necessarily. But for the sake of this discussion, what is the perfect scenario of things playing out right now? Like the way you see, even though things never unfold the way this investigation is a perfect example. It epitomizes this exactly. It's like you think you're doing something and it turns into something completely else, right? So so I know it's a fool's errand to even play this game, but if you were to like lay out some bullet points, like what needs to happen right now for this investigation to go where you think, where we think it actually is going to go eventually, and we don't know how. What needs to happen, or what would you like to see happen?
Well, first I'd like to find the body of the person that's out on that ranch. That's one of my primary concerns, is to help put a family, um, help give a family closure, because this person's been missing since 2019. And I truly believe she's out there on that property somewhere. Um, Matter of fact, Dan said that there was a gal that was speaking, uh, that communicates with the Sasquatch, with Oma. And when she saw the documentary and coming to the end, she asked Oma, and this Sasquatch goes by Kiwok. And when she asked Kiwok, "Is this really going to happen?" They said, "Yep, you have to leave, and so do we." And that's what she got. And you have to leave, and so do we, because our air and our water supply is going to be contaminated. We're going to have the worst, um, an event happening here soon. When? No one knows. No one knows. Not even Fitz knows exactly when. All right, they don't even know. But something's coming, and it may not be the way you think it's going to happen by reading the Bible. Just by studying the Bible, people think that, oh, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, then this is going to happen, this is going to happen. Well, it ain't going to happen the way people think it's going to happen. Fitz has told us how they can manipulate clouds. Okay, they've shown me over and over. I was reading the Bible, and Second Chronicles 6:1, and Solomon said, God said he would dwell in a dark cloud. Like 5 minutes later, I go to the front door when I was smoking cigarettes, and I look outside, and there sits this dark cloud. And then a friend of mine said, "Hey, Greg, I got to ask you something because you're kind of into this, but I've been having this guy lives in Wyoming. He's like, I've been having a cigar shaped cloud appearing right on my property line every night. Do you have any idea what it might be?" Well, I had just prayed for his family to be saved through this. And so that's what I told him. I said, but I don't know. And he says, well, if it shows up again, I'm going to take a photo of it and send it to you. So that night, sure as heck, it showed up again. And he sent me that photo, but he sent it at like 10 o'clock at night, and I was already in bed. And I never checked my phone until like 2 days later. And when I did, I opened up the program or opened up, my phone, and I looked at the photo, of the cloud. And I go to my front door to have a cigarette, and there sits that same exact cloud formation right in front of Simpson's Rest. It looked, I mean, just like what I saw out there. And so they're letting us know that they can manipulate clouds. Now, I think it's First Thessalonians 4:17. And we that are alive and are left will be caught up together in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. So my question is, why did they use the word cloud when they're going to say air? They don't just like throw words in the Bible for nothing. So we're going to be caught up together in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. Why didn't they just say we're going to be caught up in the air to meet the Lord? Well, it's because the clouds are the mechanism. The clouds are the mechanism, the transport system, how we're going to be going somewhere. But that's the best I can tell you, just based off of the investigation that I've seen, that there's no evil in them. And I've got people from the church that I go to that think that they're evil, but they're basing it on nothing. It's an uneducated comment that, oh, they're trying to I think they're trying to deceive you. I'm like, trying to deceive me into following God? Like, what's the end games? Let's say they are. Ha ha. I made you follow God and get a relationship with Jesus Christ. I mean, it doesn't make sense.
Gotcha. Like,
Gotcha.
that's their whole thing, is
Yeah.
just being able to say, gotcha.
Yeah.
Like, that's their whole game.
Yeah. And I'm like, man, you got to understand. I've told them, I said, man, my life is guided here. You guys showed up at my house. All right. And you were guided there. All right. They were guided here because it's a long story. I don't want to get into it, but they were basically guided to my house. And matter of fact, one of the church members, I became friends with. And I told him some of the things that's been happening, going on. And I said, you want to see something? I'll show you something. I'll show you proof. So he was over at the house one day, and I pulled out my SLS camera. And I started, like pointing it to, a couple into the house, kind of recording in the house and everything. And he's looking at the tablet, and we see nothing at all. And I said, do you see anything? Now I said, just that, if it'll pick up a spirit in stick figure form. All right. So have we saw anything since I've turned this on? He's like, no, I haven't. I said, hold on a second. And I started calling for the name of the woman that's missing. I started calling for her, and boom, she just appeared that quick. And he about freaked out that it showed up right on command. And all he could think about is how evil it was. That it's a demon. It's not a spirit of a missing woman. It's only a demon, but I don't think so. I don't think so. There's too many whys in this, there's too many whys. And you got to have faith. That when Jesus came, all the Pharisees thought he was evil. They said that he only drives out demons because he's the prince of demons. Because they didn't, Jesus didn't come into this nice little package of what they thought the Messiah was going to be and where he was from, and they missed it completely. And they were the teachers of the law, or the law of God, and they were against Jesus and got him crucified. And in the same way, people that are, you know, associated with the church, they're going to think that aliens are bad, that they're the fallen angels, and all this other stuff, and it's all based off of factless information. Now, I've been in contact with them for 4 years, and it almost insults my intelligence for people to tell me that they're evil. Because there hasn't been one thing that they have said that is equal to be evil, in an evil act. Me and Mama Sue got into a little argument on the way out to the ranch. And Fitz wouldn't even talk to us that night. He said that we were acting, how they say it, very primitive, was the words. Very primitive. And one of the last messages that Mama Sue got was, your world is falling with every passing moment. Continue to tell the truth, and God will sustain you through this mission. Look at me, man. I'm working. I'm making money now. God is sustaining me through this mission, just like I was told. Like, I've got a job. I'm working, and that's how God sustains you. He stopped me from smoking cigarettes. I just prayed on it because I was hopelessly addicted to cigarettes. I prayed to him. I went into meditation, and that was the last time I thought about a cigarette, until like 2 weeks later. I'm like, I haven't even thought of a cigarette or even had a craving for one. And 2 weeks after that, when I was saying that, it's like 3 months went by so quick. I can't even explain it, that I had no craving for a cigarette, no nothing, right after that prayer. And I have to march it all the way back to that prayer that I prayed to help me with stopping smoking cigarettes. And I literally didn't think of a cigarette for 3 months.
Yeah, I
And
mean, I remember back in the day when I was still smoking. I'd be driving across the country and I'd pull off. I'd be at a rest stop. You'd be smoking. I'd be smoking. We'd be chatting on the phone, just firing. And it's so nice to be free of that.
oh,
It's been about, a little over 2.5 or close to 2.5 years for me, but a little longer for you.
that's about how long I've quit. It's been about that long.
Yeah.
And it's yeah, I
Well,
hated
this
it, but
whole, well,
I hated it, but I enjoyed smoking. You
yeah.
know, I'd be
Well, it was
doing stuff.
something to do, right? If you're
Oh yeah,
bored too, it's something to do.
oh,
But this whole
but it's
investigation.
also a reason for a break. Like, I'll be on my computer. Oh, it's time
Oh,
for a
yeah, yeah,
cigarette.
yeah.
Oh, it's time for a cigarette. Oh, I'm having coffee. I need
Yeah.
a cigarette.
Yeah, I can stop doing this work so I can go do this. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting too. I mean, the whole investigation and, where we're at today. I just I can't really wrap my brain around, the journey that's happened, and, and the interconnectedness of this investigation, and how parts of it, and obviously when people are involved and people are connected, things, Dan and me and Ed, we're going to bring our things right into this investigation, into the Florida investigation. So there's obviously a very clear connection between the investigations, and it's the three of us, like, doing both, and bringing whatever. But at the same time, it speaks to a bigger picture of things
Well,
and the interconnectedness of all things, let alone these investigations.
the vindication that I had in this investigation was several little vindications. When you came out to the ranch for the first time, when we came out to film, and we had the night that we had, I felt I was so I felt vindicated
Are you
because
talking in January of
yeah, when
23?
we were freezing ourselves to death out there
Oh yeah.
and everything, yeah, it just I just lost what I was going to say, but um
I mean, we did have a crazy night out there. I mean, it was an interesting night, and I'm pretty sure that's the night that your SLS stopped working,
yeah, that
right?
was the last time my SLS worked, and I pulled it apart, and there was a pulled wire, but that's not even fixing it. I've got to buy another one, and that's just one of the things that I that's gotten destroyed in this investigation. I've lost a Jeep. I've lost 4 computers. I lost a body camera, and they all just died. Like as soon as I got out, like on an investigation, all of a sudden it just died. Like my body camera, I went out on this one mutilation or this UBD that happened on another ranch, and when I went out there, my body camera stopped. And when I got Mama Sue out there, we questioned about that, and they said, "Yeah, they're also going to destroy the Jeep that you're driving, so you can't drive it no more, and they're also going to be destroying your computer, so you can't use it no more." And just like a week after hearing that, not even a week, I had 2 computers go down just off of a touch. I touched it and I heard a weird snap on the inside of the computer, and it never turned on again. And so I lost that. And then on the way back from the ranch from gifting Oma, I hit a horse. I got that on my YouTube page too. Horses in the road, and that even that was paranormal. And I'll tell you why. It's because my headlights stopped projecting at a certain point, and it totally hid those horses. Like my light didn't fly, it didn't penetrate where those horses were, and I didn't see it until I was like an inch from the horse, like a couple inches from the horse when I saw it come into view, and it went right through my windshield. The horse went up and hit my windshield, and the head of the horse went right through my windshield. And then because it was walking from right to left, and I hit it, the heavy part of it of the horse kind of went alongside of my vehicle, so it kind of bounced off my vehicle and slid to the side. But people that watched it said, "Man, I don't know how in the world that horse didn't go through your windshield." And not only that, but all this glass went everywhere. My I had a dash cam, and it went flying right by me, and all this glass went everywhere. There were the glass dust everywhere. But when I went to check it, when I got home and I started kind of looking at it, there wasn't one piece, one fragment of glass that was sitting where I was sitting in my chair in the seat of the vehicle. There wasn't. The glass dust stopped right where my seat was, right where I was. Like I was totally protected from it. I didn't get no glass injury, no nothing. No, the horse didn't go through my windshield. It should have, because I'd never hit my brakes when I hit that horse. I didn't even have a chance to hit my brakes. It happened that quick, and I was only doing 40 miles an hour.
Yeah, and it's like this is just another example of the things that aren't in the first documentary.
Yeah,
It's like there's so much stuff, and
there's so
someone would be
much.
like, "How can you not put that in?"
Well,
But it's
we also
yeah.
haven't even touched uh, anything about the traffic accidents that have happened out there, the death related traffic accidents that have happened out there, and why those are happening.
Well,
You
I
know,
mean, yeah, I mean, we allude to that, and I mean, we have Tom mention a little bit, but yeah, but it's a whole nother thing.
yeah,
But it's a whole nother thing. But well, Greg, I think we got to wrap this one up for
yeah,
tonight.
sounds good.
Um, and we got to figure out the next time we're going to be out there. Um, I know the ranch is kind of being used for hunting season, things like that at the time, so might not be up there for a minute. But sooner than later, for sure, we're going to
I'm
get
going to
back
be
out there.
going back out there as soon as I can get back out there, and even if I'm just out there by myself. But I'm going to keep looking, you know, um, with my metal detector, because we're looking for a needle in a haystack. If at no time did I think I was going to go out there with a metal detector and walk out with a piece of jewelry, like on day one,
Yeah,
because
for sure.
there's, you know, um, like there's a whole fence that is buried under the ground where I was hit right at that's the crazy part, right at the 20 paces, because we were told 20 paces from the bridge you'll find a piece of jewelry. 20 paces from the bridge was a fence that was buried. So the whole time I kept picking up on this fence that was buried under the ground, you know. And of course, just because they said 20 paces didn't mean that's where I started. I started from the front, from the bridge, and just started kind of working my way back. And so far, everything that I have picked up on, metal wise, has been like 6 inches under the ground, and I don't think the piece of jewelry is going to be that far under the ground. So, but I still got to go out there. From next time I go out there, no matter what I get, no matter how deep it is, I'm going to keep going until I find whatever it's hitting on, because it could very well be a piece of jewelry that far under, because the way dirt moves around when the water goes through it, you know, it could have very easily buried a little piece of jewelry. We're looking for is possibly an earring. Now,
Wow. So something very tiny.
yeah,
Something so small is something so big
yeah.
in this investigation. Well, Greg, this has been great as always, catching up with you. Thanks for doing it. UOR Investigations. That's the letter UOR Investigations. That is actually, I'll just say it out loud for people too. It's youtube.com/@ that @ sign UOR Investigations 8842. If you type that into into YouTube or your browser or whatever, you'll find it. If you just go to YouTube and type in UOR, one acronym, Investigations, it'll come up. You'll see it. You'll see the logo, and you'll see some of the videos that we were talking about here tonight,
Yeah,
or this morning or
I
today.
try to, you know, even though a lot of this is going to be going in the next documentary, I still try to add a few things to the page, you know, to kind of keep it updated. And it's not going to stop, you know, because there's still a lot to be done. You know, what I'm not really sure, but you know, until I'm able to, you know, prove the location of a body, that's like one of my prime concerns right now, because I
Yeah.
believe everything else we're just on a waiting. We're waiting, just waiting for something bad to happen, and it, you know, we can talk about that later, or what, you know, what we're expecting to happen, but it's coming. It's coming soon, and you know, the only thing that's going to save anyone from what's going to happen is their belief in Jesus Christ, and that's what Fitz is telling us to tell people. So that's what I've been doing. I've been doing exactly what they said, because I believe doing their will is doing God's will.
And there you have it. Greg, I'm sure we're going to be talking very, very soon. We'll be updating people about the documentary Fitz, The Investigation of Mutilation Ranch, Part 1. You know, Part 1 of how many, who knows, but at least 2. That's what we do know. But okay, buddy. Well, thanks again, and I'm sure we'll chat real soon.
Okay, take care. I'm Ryan.
All right.
I'm Ryan. All right, you take care, man. Have a good night.